You've seen the scene a million times in movies, right? The bad guy, walls closing in, frantically drags that folder labeled evidence to the trash can, hits empty, and lets out a big sigh of relief. He thinks it's gone, wiped, vanished. But what if I told you that in the real world, that's probably the biggest mistake he could make? Because that so-called deleted data, it is anything but gone.
So that really is the central question we're digging into here. When you delete something from your computer, is it actually gone? And the simple answer, the answer that the entire field of digital forensics is built on, is a huge, resounding no. You see, in their world, the word delete doesn't mean destroy. It just means hide. So let's go back to our movie villain. He thinks he just digitally shredded all his secrets. But what he's actually done is just, well, he's basically left the evidence sitting right where it was, but he's taken down the sign pointing to it. For an investigator, that drive he just wiped clean, it's a gold mine.
Okay, to really understand how this is possible, you need to stop thinking about a traditional hard drive as a piece of technology. Instead, I want you to imagine it's a massive physical library, just a huge building filled with shelves and books.
Now, every library needs a card catalog, right? A way to find things. Well, your hard drive has one too. It's called the Master File Table, or MFT for short. And you can think of it as the ultimate table of contents for the entire library. It's this crucial index that tells your computer the exact shelf location for every single file, every single book on the drive.
So this is where the myth gets busted. You think hitting delete is like taking the book off the shelf and throwing it into an incinerator. But your computer, it's actually pretty lazy. Instead of doing all that work, it just walks over to the index, that master file table, finds the entry for your file, and just crosses it out. The book itself? It's left on the shelf, perfectly fine. The computer just makes a little note that says, hey, this space is now available if you need it later.
So if the index entry is gone, how do investigators find the book? I mean, they can't ask the librarian, right? This is where the real detective work comes in. They have to ignore the catalog and just start searching the shelves, row by row. In forensics, this amazing technique is called file carving. And here's the secret to how it works. It's this crucial insight. Every single type of file has its own unique digital fingerprint. You could call it its digital DNA. A JPEG image is just fundamentally different from a Word document at a deep structural level. And that structure, well, that's the key. These little fingerprints are called binary signatures. They're these unique sequences of data that basically act as a this is the start of a file marker and a this is the end marker. For instance, just about every single JPEG image file in the world begins with the exact same hexadecimal code, FFD8FF. It's like a universal birthmark.
And this, right here, is the aha moment. Investigators use special software to scan all that raw, supposedly empty space on the drive, completely ignoring that broken index. This software just churns through billions and billions of bits of data until, bam, it finds that telltale FFD8FF signature. At that moment, it knows it's found the beginning of a picture. It just scoops up all the data until it hits the end signature, and poof, the deleted photo is back from the dead.
Okay, so you might be thinking, great, this means the data is basically there forever. Well, not quite. There's one huge threat that investigators are always in a race against, and that threat is called overwriting. Remember how we said the computer marked that spot on the shelf as free? Well, the moment you decide to save a new document or download a song or install a program, the computer might decide to use that exact same spot. It'll just shove a new book right onto the shelf, and in the process, it will physically destroy and write over the old deleted book that was still sitting there.
This is why the absolute #1 first rule in any digital investigation is to power down the machine immediately. Unplug it from the wall, stop everything. Because the more you use a computer after a file has been deleted, the higher the chance that that little digital ghost is going to be overwritten and lost for good. Now, of course, technology never stands still, and there's a modern twist to this whole story. The solid-state drive, or SSD, which is in most of our new computers. Unlike those old spinning hard drives, SSDs have a feature called trim. And to maintain their high speeds, the trim command doesn't wait for new data to come along. It actively goes in and cleans out, or wipes, those deleted spots almost immediately. And that makes recovery much, much harder. But even with SSDs, a great investigator knows that data is kind of like water. It finds little cracks to seep into and hide.
They can still hunt for copies of files that your computer automatically saves in the background. We're talking about things like system restore points, those temporary internet files in your browser cache, thumbnail versions of pictures, and of course the big one, anything that might have been synced to the cloud. So, what does this all really mean? It just goes to show you that our digital footprints are way more permanent than we tend to think. There are always echoes. There are always ghosts left behind in the machine.
At the end of the day, unless you're planning on taking a drill or a giant magnet to your hard drive, the word gone is really just a suggestion. So the next time you empty that trash can, just remember, you're not destroying the book. You're just ripping out the bookmark.
So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. We've all done it, right? Hit delete by accident. So think about a time you lost a file you desperately needed back. Now that you know how all this works, you might realize there was probably a ghost of it still there, just waiting to be found.